But you said that you were frenemies with dystonia.
Yes.
I'd like to know what that means, and then tell us what dystonia is.
Right. Frenemies is when you have sort of a friendly relationship with something, but also there's an enemy element to it. And it's kind of a funny word. It's usually used with humor, but people just started saying that word in the last year or so, and I thought it definitely applies to my condition or my disorder, because I mostly try to stay friends with it so that I can live as normal of a life as possible. But at times, I will admit I get frustrated with the disorder, which is when we're enemies. But for the most part, I try to keep it on the positive side.
And you said it's akin to Parkinson's. It's a brain or neurological disorder. What is dystonia?
It's a movement disorder that is related to Parkinson's. It comes from the same exact part of the brain as Parkinson's. It's called the basal ganglia, and it's your anxiety center, your stress center. It's about the size of a walnut. It's in the middle of your brain, and with dystonia, and I can't speak about Parkinson's because I've done obviously a lot more research on dystonia, but it sends out erroneous signals to your muscles, and there are probably at least 12 presentations of dystonia. Mine is called spasmodic torticollis, but there are other presentations of it that are even more severe. Mine's considered very severe, but if you have generalized dystonia, that means that it can affect every muscle in your body. I was on Oprah with Michael J. Fox. He has Parkinson's, but he also has dystonia in his feet. So a lot of people with Parkinson's have dystonia as well. It's very common. And people with MS often have dystonia. It's connected to a number of different diseases and disorders.
You strike me as a fighter, and you are an activist. Sometimes what strikes us is what makes us be people in the world, so to speak.
Right.
But something that struck me in the reading I was doing is that you've gone from wheelchair to walker to cane, and you run you run 2 miles a day?
Yeah. I do. I try to push myself because I really can't do anything more to myself than that's already been done. Unless I were in a car wreck or something. But I just try different physical things to see what my limitations are, and when I find something that I can do, I keep doing it. And I keep my doctors in the loop about it, and so far with the running, they're okay with it. They're definitely okay with swimming, which I do, because it's, very low impact. But I've always loathed running, but now that I can do it, I love it.
Forgive me, because it sounds like such a patronizing and very obvious question. Obviously,
No.
It has changed your life,
Yeah.
physically and other. But how has it really changed your life and who you are?
It has changed my life so deeply that I often find it hard to express to people who haven't been through something like this that I always have felt a sense of purpose in what I do for a living, but it gave me such purpose that I just felt totally ignited to help other people who don't have the resources I have and who don't have a loving family, to people who don't have friends or family who understand it. Something very common with what I have is just never leaving your house, and that really the only way that you can die from dystonia is by killing yourself, because you end up basically sequestering yourself. You don't want to leave the house because it's an embarrassing posture to be in. At my worst, my head was upside down, and I think you saw some of the pictures. You really don't want to leave the house when you look like that, so you end up staying home for weeks on end, which I did at the beginning, and then I decided I have to break through this, And I also had to I had to be very careful about muscle atrophy, which was just something that I noticed. So the more I started moving around, my muscles started to respond in a good way, and that helped me get back out into the world, still with some limitations, but, just was part of my journey in leading a normal life.
It's amazing.
Well, you mentioned frenemies, which I like, but a word that I've used a lot is relatives, which is friends and relatives. And obviously you were talking about how important friends and relatives have been to you. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. And then also, what are the chances that there will be either a cure or something that is something that will treat the symptoms better?
So regarding the relatives and friends, I am a very strong person, and so for a while I didn't really want anyone to come see how I looked because I have a job that requires me to appear incredibly strong and bossy, if you will, and, full of strength. So I equated what I looked like with weakness for a bit. Now I don't, but in the beginning I did. But once I got over that, I let my friends come over to help me and take care of me and bring me food and come over and walk the dogs. So I have some very dear friends who wanted to step up from day one, but I wouldn't let them. And I didn't tell my parents about it for a while because I didn't want them to be concerned, because I live in Los Angeles and they're in Dallas. So I didn't want them to be concerned. So I have had such great support, but have declined it at times, which I think is pretty natural if you don't want people to sort of see what you look like when it's that severe. As far as a cure, I get a lot of mixed information about that. I know that there are some very good doctors and researchers out there who are doing very important work, but the disorder is so complex and there are so many different versions of it that I'm doing research on what I think is most important with advice from numerous specialists. So as far as a cure, some people will say it's going to happen soon. To be honest, do not know what the reality is of that. So I'm sort of focused on how do you live with it now until they find a cure, and I'm focused on raising awareness and advocating, being an advocate for people who didn't know what they had until they saw me, and then fundraising, which I'm just in the early stages of. I chose to stay independent from the big foundations for various reasons, which we don't need to get into. I feel very strongly about those reasons, but we don't need to get into it right now. But my overhead is 1%, and it doesn't go to me. It goes to the foundation that houses my nonprofit. So I've been able to do everything for free, essentially.
And Rogers, what is your nonprofit in case people want to find you?
It's called Beat Dystonia, and it's housed by the Texas Communities Foundation here in Dallas, which is an excellent organization. I know that they handle over $1 billion of nonprofit money. So they've been so kind as to oversee my nonprofit. And also my website is www.lifewithdystonia.com.
If there was one thing that you would want people seeing and hearing you right now, what would it be?
I think, going through this journey is when you're faced with adversity, figure out a way, your own way, everyone's different, figure out a way to make it into something positive in your life and transformative. And it happened easily for me, but I don't think it happens easily for many people. So I looked for the blessing in it from the beginning, and it happened very easily for me. So I just feel for the people who struggle with complaining about it and sort of focusing on the pain and focusing on all all the negative stuff, and I've really tried to stay positive. And like I said, I try to live my life as me,